there was this book I read on the internet some 20 plus years ago. I got flagged by the government for reading it.
I'm assuming you're talking about eating things raw, like raw human flesh.
So, but anyway, getting back to the how to properly butcher a human carcass.
Like the Donner Party kind of thing.
Chicken's good.
That's not chicken, sir. That's that man we found back there.
I want to kill myself. I might as well let somebody eat me that wants to eat me.
I think consuming the dead is kind of the ultimate recycling. Welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and it'd be really cool if you'd like and share this video and subscribe to the channel and hit that ridiculous bell, because that's how you know when we've released something new.
And I'm Casey Rochford, and we write our own music. Stick around to the end of the show. You can hear it there. You can skip ahead if you want, but we always talk about really cool stuff. So if you want the music, we're on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify. Go look us up and check out ksmvidcast.com if you don't know where to look. So, what do you want to talk about today?
Oh man, there's like so many things we have on the list of stuff to talk about, but why don't we do something that this will be an entertaining subject. Let's talk about cannibalism. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember which episode. It was really early on in the show, and we got to talking about autonomy or something, and I remember thinking, well, what if somebody wanted to like eat a human? Do you think that's okay to like respect their autonomy, to want to be a cannibal or whatever? And we thought it might be a good episode. So
yeah, and this is something that gets people. I think a lot of people are very divided on this particular subject, and of course, it all depends on the circumstance. Much like everything, people are like, well, in this situation, it's completely. It makes sense, and in that situation, it's totally wrong. So we should probably kind of deep dive into those. And
so I'd say there's like 3 classifications of cannibalism. There's one you really don't even see anymore. It's like a ritualistic thing. There was, beliefs that you could, gain power or some kind of essence from somebody by eating them or parts of them.
Kind of like Mega Man or something like that.
and then there's like survival, like you're stranded out in a boat somewhere, and obviously it's kind of hard to grab fish with your bare hands, so your buddy's going to be your next meal. And then there's the people that are just kind of like weird and want to eat people, and we generally classify them as crazies.
Yeah. Well, I would add to that maybe there could be a little bit more dimension to that maybe there are people, I think, in some cultures who eat the dead. So if somebody dies of natural causes, they eat them. It's I guess it's kind of the Mega Man thing. Well, not necessarily like that, but the idea that
ashes and making the most of materials.
Well, and that I'm not entirely clear on exactly why they do it, but it isn't something that's forced on somebody. So they're not killing the person just died for whatever reason, and as part of the culture, it's tradition to eat that person. Everybody gets together and they share a meal of their grandpa or something like that.
So here's the interesting thing. It's not technically illegal to do something like that, even here in America today in 2020. There's not like a cannibalism law or anything like that. There are some like, workarounds to, get somebody in trouble for that. I mean, the obvious one would be murder, but like in the situation you're talking about, like if grandpa dies and the family wants to eat him instead of bury or cremate or donate to science, um, I mean, why not? But there are like desecration of corpse laws and stuff. But I mean, if it's autonomy we're talking about, and grandpa's okay with it before he dies, and the family's okay with it, I don't know.
Well, and I gotta say, having gone through burials and cremation processes of past loved ones and stuff like that, sure is cheap. It's an inexpensive way to do that, and I could see it potentially having some kind of reverence. You're consuming that person as long as they don't have some kind of crazy disease or something like that. I honestly don't have a problem with it, because me and my personal philosophy is once you're dead, and the body is just a vessel. So whatever happens after the fact doesn't really matter. I mean, when we spoke of like the desecration thing, like I don't know if I want somebody like having sexual intercourse with my dead corpse. Like that would be a little weird. But even then, I guess I'm dead. I don't care.
When it comes to humans, strictly speaking, in our own species, there are a lot of inherent dangers to eating your own kind. Just the way our, personal biota works is that, we have a really pretty fair amount of bacteria and stuff like that that do a great deal of our digestion and stuff like that. But we have E. coli in our systems, in a certain amount. It's just when it gets over a certain threshold that it becomes a problem, and that's what you can easily run into when eating a human being. But there are ways to very carefully work around that. There was this book I read on the internet some 20 plus years ago. I got flagged by the government for reading it. I was just curious. It was called How to Butcher a Human Carcass or something like that.
Oh, you got flagged by the government.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah, even though like reading, researching, learning things shouldn't be a crime or wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it's actually probably something really important to know if you ever are stranded on a boat and somebody dies and you need food or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that you could like cook on a boat, but and that's important.
Depends on the boat,
Because
but yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's some evidence that humans and Neanderthals were eating each other, and some humans had a mutation in a gene that protected them against this. It was called Kuru virus or something. And anyway, there's a thought that wiped out the Neanderthals.
Oh wow.
And cannibalism. So, but anyway, getting back to the how to properly butcher a human carcass. There was this great detail about like making a circular incision around the anus and tying it off and removing the intestines through the anus very carefully so you don't release all that bacteria into the meat.
Well, that's like butchering any game animal. You do much the same kind of thing.
Right. So, but does that the average person know that? Like, do you think the Donner Party knew that? Like,
Probably not. I mean, yeah, I would think that cooking things, if you're in the if you have the means to actually cook things and stuff, that it would be a completely different story. But I'm assuming you're talking about eating things raw, like raw human flesh.
No, like this was, assuming that you would cook it, because humans don't really have the necessary enzymes and bacteria to digest uncooked meat. Like
Mhm.
we used to, but we don't now. Um, so yeah, it's if I recall, being flagged by the government means I don't have the book now. I wisely removed it from my hard drive. Uh, um, I'm pretty sure there was something about cooking. I didn't read the whole thing. I'm not super crazy.
Well, but I mean, it's interesting to read about. Like, it's certainly interesting, and like you said, if you're ever in that situation, it'd be good to know, because people have in the past been in that situation. We have countless stories of that, like the Donner Party kind of thing.
Chicken's good.
Yeah, that's not chicken, sir. That's that man we found back there. Yeah. So maybe so. There's a lot of angles we could go with this. I guess we should start with like the morality side, like
Well,
different philosophies
obviously,
around how right it is to do that.
right. Yeah, obviously, murdering someone without their consent to ultimately eat them is wrong,
Yeah,
because
full stop.
yeah,
That's yeah,
yeah, no consent there.
yeah.
But there were, and this is really bizarre, there were websites where you could go on and consent to be killed and eaten. And some guy in Germany did that like 20 years ago or something,
Hmm.
and ended up getting, in trouble with the law for it. But there was a whole website for that. Like, is that is that
Wow.
is that a prevalent enough thing that it warrants having a website of people to go and like peruse like a menu or something?
Well, maybe back in the '90s, there was like a website for everything.
Like, oh, I
Uh,
love French food.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, and I don't know that the whole like if you consent to it and you are not killed, right? Like I mean, we could go into the whole you have a terminal illness, that whole thing, the Kevorkian kind of angle, um, killing yourself or having somebody kill you because you're going to die anyway and you want to die peacefully. Um, but if you die of natural causes, like, what does it matter what happens to that body? The disposal and handling of dead bodies differs between cultures and philosophies and religions and things like that. And what if you think it's okay? I don't honestly don't see a problem with it, as long as, again, somebody's not killing you to feast on your meat. Um,
right. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly an argument to be made that it's better than burying someone, because that's got its whole host of problems with, just the real estate for one thing, the
yeah.
leaching into the soil of all the, said bacteria and whatnot that is no good.
Not only that, but the crazy expense and the stupid ass expensive caskets and procedures and rigmarole that goes around that. Like I think consuming the dead is kind of the ultimate recycling, especially if you take what's left and you do something, or create like art or something out of it, or make a little monument to your loved one. I don't have a problem with that. Like
Yeah,
I don't see why it's a big issue if everybody, if all of the parties are okay with it, then what does it matter? Like, what does a third party's opinion about whether it's right or wrong matter at that point? Like, that's your loved one that's dead, and that's your family, and you should be able to decide ultimately,
I
within
think
reason.
I think there's a lot of projection of people's own preferences. Not even necessarily morality, just, because I mean, like you said, I don't know that anyone would morally object to somebody wanting. Well, I guess I can't say nobody. Some people certainly object to other people's ideas of what they want to do.
Well, yeah, and those are the people who object to everything.
Yeah. But I don't know. It just, I certainly can see where people are coming from, that it's so unnecessary. I could see an argument for it being disrespectful. Like you've see, the thing about like burying people or retaining their ashes, you've got like this revered place of remembrance, either that you can go to, or that you can put on your mantle, or that you can, you know, cathartically spread somewhere that they favored, and you can visit that place. There's always some place that people feel connected to that person. You eat that person, they're gone in a day or two. Like.
Well, it depends on your
eh,
philosophy, though. Like, what if, in your personal view, consuming the dead gives you the ultimate connection to their soul or their personhood or something like that? And that's the thing. It's like, we can't really judge everybody based on our own philosophies, especially something like this that's much more philosophical than it is logical. Um, and
here's philosophical for you. There's a movement to turn dead people into trees now, right? You've heard of
oh
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I like that. There's a place to go. It's good for the environment, blah blah blah. But say it's an apple tree, all
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And grandpa grows into an apple tree, and great grandson goes out and picks an apple. Is he eating grandpa?
Well, maybe in sort of a,
Apple pie kind of way.
yeah, because trees and plants, they take up nutrients in different ways. It's not like there's going to be a head of the grandpa in the apple or something like the. It would be more like very low level chemicals and water and things like that. And I don't think that would be an issue. Yeah, and I recently did a minute microscopy on recycling yourself, how donating your body to science, and the see through people kind of thing, like that's a good thing to do. Um, but it all depends on your own personal philosophy, and that really does kind of, I think, that's at the core of this whole discussion, is what a particular individual feels about something, what they feel about what a person is, or that kind of thing, like proper ways of doing things. But you know it I always have a problem with somebody who, when you're talking about something philosophical like this, um, kind of pushing their own philosophy on everybody else, like they know the right way, and everybody else is some kind of savage or something like that because they don't believe the way they do. But everybody thinks that. So who's right at that point?
Yeah.
You know, I I kind of
Yeah.
like the idea of, it's sort of like a circle of life. I'm not going to break into song. It's a circle of life kind of thing to have that sort of intimate connection with a loved one when they've died, and you know maybe there's a certain acceptance there that you, putting somebody in a hole in the ground or putting them into an incinerator isn't the same as taking their body and consuming it. um I think the level of intimacy is so high when you go down that route that maybe it's a, to some people it could be a source of reverence or respect or something like that, that you're willing to do that, or that, you know, you're taking that person into your body and recycling their material into yourself. It kind of goes into this kind of whole Dune thing, like well, you know, somebody dies and they suck the water out of them, and then everybody gets to drink of the water of the dead person.
Huh.
You know, it's symbolic, I guess.
Yeah. I could see that, like, if it's in an established culture, I don't I don't see any reason why you should dissuade them from it. You know, as long as they're being responsible about it, and, you know, taking care not to poison themselves and the whole family,
Yeah.
or, you know, add pickles or anything egregious like that.
Or onions, don't forget that too. Yeah, if they're not taking the
now
person's, huh?
Now we're gonna go into foods that we hate.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, as long as they're not taking the person's carcass and making a pinata out of it and turning it into some kind of game, although maybe in some cultures that's a thing. Like, again, I don't claim to be morally superior enough to judge people, because this is a philosophical thing. It's not a logical thing. There is no right and wrong in this case, aside from the murder side of things, and you go out into the fringes and it changes. But
Yeah, but I mean, like, in the context of this discussion, we're basically just assuming, like, no murders are taking place.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you know, like, there's so what about people that, I mean, we've discussed this in a couple episodes about suicide and stuff, but, you know, what if a person goes and signs up for a website like that, where they say, you know what, I want to kill myself, I might as well let somebody eat me that wants to eat me. You know, is that okay?
After they're dead, maybe. I mean, because that goes into the whole like morality of suicide kind of thing. But as long as somebody voluntarily opts to do something like that, I think I feel mostly okay with it. Um, you know, if somebody goes kicking and screaming up to the top of some kind of ziggurat in the Aztec world and gets stabbed with a knife, stabbed with a knife, on an altar or something like that, sacrificing for some kind of, you know, improved crop yield or something like that, that's where I start to draw the line. Like, I think that's kind of bullshit, because they didn't willingly do it. But if somebody willingly decides to end their life, or somebody dies of natural causes or something like that, I think whatever they're okay with in life is okay afterward. So if somebody has in their will or whatever, like, oh yeah, you can completely like have a barbecue on me, literally, then I guess it's okay if everybody's, you know, okay with that. Because again, it's just a vessel. You're dead. Like, the as far as I'm concerned, the soul is something ethereal. It's something beyond the physical structure of your body. And once you die, like, that physical structure is just like a shell, and doesn't really mean anything. So do we have to respect that? Oh, it depends on on what you believe, I guess. You know, if you have some kind of religious philosophy that says, like, you know, the dead should be respected and revered and handled in a certain way, then yeah, you should probably follow that. But if you don't have those, that sort of code, then I think anything goes at that point, within some amount of reason, of course.
All right, well, I'll take this in a weird direction. Let's think about protecting the cannibal. You know,
Hmm.
he or she is about to consume a non-regulated meat. So uh, you could commit suicide because you've got some horrible disease that's tainted your meat, and, you know, um, It might be the Soylent killer. You know, you don't know exactly what you're getting. Should the FDA step in and regulate human meat?
Well, you know how I feel about regulations, though I do think that certainly some measure of like you shouldn't just like accept anything. There should definitely be some sort of oversight of that kind of thing, and certainly now, well, if the government wasn't all like hoity-toity about books like the one that you read, people would know what to do, and all they'd have to do is download that book, which might even be public domain now, and know exactly what to do.
Yeah, but I mean, even people that know what they're doing, like if there were no regulation, that mad cow disease that broke out like 25 years ago or whatever would have gone way more rampant than it did.
Well, yeah, but regulation doesn't always have to come from the government. But yeah, that is a thing. It's certainly something to consider. And there's always risk. There's risk in everything we do. So it's kind of up to the individual to take their chances. Or like, do I want to accept this risk, like eating a human body? As long as the information is freely available, that people know the risks, then they can kind of weigh those risks and decide what they want to do. Maybe your personal philosophy of reverence for the dead is so huge that you might be willing to put your own self at risk to adhere to that. And I'm fine with that. It's like anything else, life isn't fair and it's dangerous. So, well, what do you think about like the kinds of situations like a Donner Party and things like that, where people are out in the freezing cold and people are dying and they have to consume somebody?
Yeah, there have been situations where people were in, out in a boat or whatever, and somebody, I don't remember who these people were. It was like 19th century or something. They one of them like drank seawater because he was so thirsty and ended up passing out from dehydration, and the other two guys took advantage of that. And I mean, he was unconscious, so you could argue that it was humane, but they killed him and ate him. And when they were rescued, they were sentenced to death for it. So it's like, how's that? You get rescued and then sent to, they eventually got it reduced to like 6 months or something. But like, how is that for a slap in the face? Like, oh, we just went to the trouble of saving you, now we're gonna kill you.
Geez, yeah, that's a little over the top. It's kind of hypocritical, actually, and there's nothing I hate more than hypocrisy. Yeah. I mean, at least there was a little bit of last minute change in that regard. Yeah. And I think,
but that guy did not give consent or anything, and he wasn't truly dead.
Exactly. So that is a special circumstance that they actually actively killed a person to consume them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that that's always the case. But I think people are so quick to judge. They say, oh, well, that's wrong, or they shouldn't have done that. They should have done this or that. Well, hindsight's 20/20, bitch. Unless you've walked in that person's shoes, you're in no position to judge them. Go ahead and try being in the middle of freezing cold weather with nothing but a t-shirt for like 25 days while people are dying left and right, and see how well you fare. And then once you've done that, then you can come to me and give me your judgment. That's the thing. I think the empathy is a dying art, I guess. The people are incapable of putting themselves in somebody else's shoes and imagining the kinds of trauma and the kind of situation that another person is going through, and they judge them based on like clinical circumstances. Like it's like, oh yeah, like, well, everything's good for me, so you know, and
Yeah.
I think when you're in that kind of situation, it is pretty scary. I haven't been in that situation, but I've been in close, like milder versions of that, and man, I'll tell you, you go nuts. Like,
Yeah. I remember once I didn't have enough money for McDonald's, and I was about to ready to go eat somebody. I'm kidding. Uh,
oh man,
got hangry.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like half a day without eating, and now you're ready to like go stab something and consume it, no matter what it is. I don't care if it's a badger, man. I'm gonna take that thing out and eat it.
Yeah,
Oh man,
I think all those situations definitely have to be taken case by case because
yeah,
I mean, yeah, if the people you were with just die from exposure, I don't see any moral qualms about eating them to survive, especially if you have the means to do it safely. Like you've got a knife, you've got the ability to build a fire. That's really all you need. Um, and you know, otherwise you might die. Now you can go a couple weeks without eating, but
yeah.
and if
Now,
there's
of course,
if there's nothing else to eat, that would be my last resort, just personally. But
yeah. I mean, if it's really cold and your body's shivering and you're exerting yourself, those weeks turn to days.
mhm,
A lot
mhm.
of calories are burned doing that kind of thing. So, it depends on the circumstance. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
that's a fair point.
and the thing is, like, in a survival situation, when you're in the middle of nowhere with a group of people, there is no FDA, there's no safety regulations. Like, you gotta fucking survive. So you just have to roll the dice and take your chances and hope to God that you're gonna make it. People have done all kinds of wild things, like sawing off their own leg and stuff like that. No cauterization, no nothing, and just to get out of a situation. In those kinds of extreme cases, I have a lot of sympathy for those people. Like, I think you just did what you had to do.
Yeah,
Um, and you know, God, you actually
it's
made it, and
yeah,
now you can write a book.
it's not like they probably enjoyed it or anything.
No,
It's
no, not at all. They just wanted to get out of there or
mhm,
live another day. So hopefully they could be rescued or something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Oof. Yeah, that's a heavy one. Um,
It
you,
definitely
you
is.
you have any other examples or philosophical points to make on it?
Eh, Yeah, I mean, I could probably go on and on about it. There's kind of a lot of different angles. I'd certainly like to hear what other people have to say, um, especially somebody that has been or knows somebody that's been in the same kind of situation, like a survival situation. Maybe not one where he had to eat somebody, but how desperate those
Yeah,
kinds of situations are. And like, if there was a dead person, would you have eaten them? You
right.
know?
Yeah, yeah. There's probably more people that could, you know, give an accurate hypothesis on whether or not they would have done that than people that have actually been in those shoes. But it would be certainly interesting to hear from somebody that has been in those shoes.
Yeah, I'd
Uh,
like to actually interview somebody and hear their story on that.
yeah. Clearly we're not going to judge them. So
No, no, and I couldn't even begin to hope to judge somebody like that, having not been in that kind of situation. But I just wanted to like circle back real quick, like um, about the whole like moral side of things, and I don't know, I it kind of irks me, people casting judgment on other people because of their own views on things. Like, oh well, to me that's a bad thing, so clearly you're a bad person and you need some kind of punishment. um and I think the the idea that it's a voluntary thing or a societal thing does change the game a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain, I don't know, like core humanity values, like if you murdered the person to eat them, I
Yeah.
think it would be fair to cast your own judgments on that person. But
Sure.
when it
Sure.
comes to
Yeah.
when it comes to something as gray as just the fact of like eating a dead person, no qualifiers on it. That's the only thing you're looking at. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to cast your own personal views on somebody else's choice. Um, I just don't think it falls under that purview of basic humanity. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because really, like, it exists in other species. It exists in some of our own human cultures, even to this day, in some small Aboriginal tribes, I think, if I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah. And
mistaken.
it's a personal thing too. Like, I don't think those things, whether you have like a written doctrine that tells you one thing or another, I think um, it still remains a personal thing. And just because you feel very strongly about what you believe doesn't mean that the strong feelings of another are invalid. Um,
Yeah,
because, oh, wait, wow. That opens the door to like comparing religions and stuff like that. But
yeah,
it's like, prove it. Prove that your belief system is the right one.
right.
That give me concrete evidence, something scientific, something calculable that can be weighed, and maybe I'll start to accept what you have to say. But if it's just hyperbole or interpretation of ancient texts or something like that, I don't think that's valid.
Yeah. I mean, and even my main argument against it, if I had to have one, would be that if you don't prepare the human correctly, it could be dangerous for you. But I mean, if that were cause to not do something whatsoever, there's plenty of people with driver's licenses that shouldn't be driving, because
Yeah,
if you do that wrong, you could kill somebody or yourself. So,
yeah, exactly. Well, and then it could be argued the reason people don't know how to properly prepare a human for consumption is that we don't do it regularly. Um,
or or we don't make the literature freely available without uh, alerting the government to your
yeah, you get on a blacklist or
motivation.
something. Yeah, exactly. Oh man,
Yeah,
that's a. I mean, it's a touchy subject. I think for some people, it's something that they feel very strongly about, and for others, maybe not. But um, I definitely like to hear more ideas, like people's own personal stories or their philosophy. Particularly, I mean, I'm not so concerned about what the philosophy is, but I'm more concerned about why. Like, where do you derive that philosophy from than what it is that your philosophy is? Um, I think that's better for conversation. Um, yeah.
yeah. So if you've got some experience in this, or somebody, please shoot us an email, and we would love to have a chat. ksmvidcast.com. There's a few avenues of reaching out to us on that page. So that's definitely a place to look, and you can get swag there too. So
Awesome shirt. Yeah, definitely. And check out the song on the way out. We have new stuff pretty much every episode. Something new, something good, maybe relevant, usually. So yeah, stick around to that. And if you are feeling generous, go to patreon.com/ksmvidcast and throw us a few bucks. Like, we'll really appreciate it.
yeah.
Because YouTube isn't going to do us anything.
Yeah, and until the next time, Why don't you stick to the safe way of eating people?
What? A bathtub and lie? Oh, wait. Well, thanks for deep sink diving with us.
I got
The
dark.
topic of cannibalism and everything surrounding it. And have a good night, everybody. And don't get eaten.
Stick a fork in the power socket. Light a match near the gasoline. Whack the wire.